Hey, come visit my website at 103.27.34.33. Said no one ever. Go to Ronen.IT. Or if you want to go to Google, you don't type in 216.58.203.110. You type in google.com. But how does that all work? Well, this video is going to talk about it. My name's Ronen. I've been an educator in the IT and security space for going on 10 years. It's good to see you here. Hey, so if you're unaware, the name of the system that allows us to do that is DNS, or domain name system. So the idea being that instead of us having to remember these crazy numbers for websites, we just remember a simple human memorable name like google.com or facebook.com or Ronen.IT, right? So how does that all work? Well, it was designed a very long time ago, and it's been updated and moved and worked on since. There are a lot of features to DNS that a lot of people aren't aware of, and I'm not going to go into crazy details here. This is one of my, what I call a foundation series videos. So the idea is it's just getting you familiar and comfortable with some of the basics to act as a foundation for later videos where we'll start talking about the security of DNS or some of the other little intricacies that we might want to talk about. So for now, let's just talk about what DNS is, how it works to a basic level so that we're all on the same page. Before we jump too deep into this, let's take a look at what it looks like from our PC's perspective. So over here, we can open up a command prompt, and in that command prompt itself, this is on Windows, of course, you can use tools like ping. Now, ping will just purely check to see if a server is contactable or not. And in this case, it is, and you can see that IP address that I was referring to over there. But ping's not a great tool for resolving Ronen.IT. It works, but a better tool on Windows would be something like NSLOOKUP. We're actually doing a direct lookup here. So if I type in an address like Ronen.IT, it will show me here is a non-authoritative answer. We're going to talk about what that is in a sec. All right, so I've got a cool way for us to kind of walk through how this all works, because it does get a little complicated, but I've got a cool tool. This guy, cloud, let's go to the cloud. All right. So here we are in the cloud on my ideas desk, let's call it that. We have over here the internet. And the idea is that we'll go with a home example first. So we've got at home a router. This is your modem that your ISP would have supplied you with, and it's connected to the internet, hopefully. If your ISP is as good as mine, which is Aussie Broadband, it should be up all the time. Check out the description for a code. Anyway, your home router. And at home, we've got a PC, your PC. Now, how does your PC know when you type in Ronen.IT or google.com what the actual IP address is, the number that it needs to in order to connect to the site? So part of your ISP's configuration is it will give your modem and subsequently any devices that you have on your network, like your mobile phones or your computers, details around what are called a primary and secondary DNS server. So I'll show them up here, right? So the idea here is when your machine, any device, needs to actually connect to a website, it will try and resolve, that is, change the name to an IP address. And it will do so by asking the IP addresses listed here. Now, the way it does that, it's called a recursive request or a recursive query. It will say, hey, server, in this case, primary server, I need to connect to Ronen.IT. How do I do that? I need it to be resolved. So can you do my bidding? Can you find out for me? And that primary DNS server that was supplied, in this case by Aussie Broadband, would be up here somewhere in the cloud. In fact, some people refer to it as a local DNS server. It could be down here as well, but we'll go with this example here. So what happens is your computer or your phone or any device will connect up through the internet and say, hey, server over here, I want to know what Ronen.IT's IP address is. Find out for me. It's not just tell me the answer. Tell me the answer if you know it, but if you don't know the answer, then it's your job, Mr. DNS server, to go and find out. And in this scenario, because unfortunately no one here has visited Ronen.IT before, this server is going to have to find out where the hell to ask. It's a needle in a haystack, if you know what I mean. So what it does, when you take a look at this domain, Ronen.IT, there's actually a dot at the end. And that dot is the root DNS or the root name. So what this server needs to do is then iteratively go and ask the root server, which I'll put up over here. It needs to go and ask this guy, hey, what the hell is this IT business. What is .it? So he will then go and request and say, I need the name servers for what .it is. The root DNS server will reply back to our DNS server up here in the cloud and say, yeah, this is the guy, all right, over here somewhere that you need to actually talk to. Way out here. And that is the .it, or the Italian DNS server. Now, when I registered my domain, Ronen.IT, I have on this guy's records, I'm the owner, and it points to a name server of my choice. So there's this guy will then, and it's just another DNS server, will reply to our DNS server saying, hey, I'm the Italian guy, and Ronen.IT, the name server, is hosted over here, which is just, again, another DNS server. You can see how it gets quite complicated quite quickly, right? So this guy replies to us on the local DNS server with, hey, yep, this is Ronen.IT's DNS server. And then again, we query, by we, this server, queries this local DNS server, sorry, not local, just DNS server, with, hey, I'm looking for Ronen.IT, just straight vanilla Ronen.IT, not www, not mail.ronen.it, but just straight up Ronen.it. You could ask any of those. And this guy will reply, yeah, here's the IP address you need. Blah, that IP. Once this guy has the answer, finally, he will then reply back to our PC and say, yeah, here's the mapping you needed, bro. All done. But you can see how it's quite a lengthy process. Let's go over it again. We want to make a request. I need to find out what Ronen.IT resolves to. So I ask my primary DNS server. He then does my bidding, asks the root DNS server for who .it is. Got that. Then asks the .it server for, well, who is Ronen.IT's name server? Got that. Then goes and asks Ronen.IT server, hey, I need the IP address for the web server, Ronen.IT. We get that back. He replies back to our machine over here, and any devices here, by the way. And then we know. And that server is a web server. Pop it over here, which just happens to be hosting my wonderful website that is still under construction. And then here, our guy will make a request out for the actual website itself. So you can see there's like a massive process in this section all about DNS, all just to get us to that wonderful website. Now, the beautiful thing is there's a lot of complexity here, but once that's happened a couple of times, or even just once actually, we no longer need to go through that whole rigmarole. This guy knows the answer. So the next time, let's say your mobile device, you want to browse to Ronen.IT on your phone, it will request of the primary DNS server, hey, I need to resolve Ronen.IT. This guy's like, hey, snap, someone's already asked me about that. I know the answer. The answer is, bleh, here's the IP address, and it replies directly from its cache. Now, that is known as a non-authoritative response because it's kind of hearsay, but it's like, I don't want to go through the work of asking all these different guys again because I already know. Here's your answer, mate. Wonderful, right? Very, very quick. That's the advantage there. Now, the length that this guy will actually store those records for is based on the TTL, or the time to live of those records. And they can go from anywhere from 1 hour to like a couple of days. And that's why when you make DNS changes, sometimes it takes a long time to propagate. If someone out there, if I were to change the DNS settings for Ronen.IT, it might take someone who's visited my website in India a day and a half before they actually get the updated page. Not because the page isn't updated, but because all the records that they have from all that rigmarole still point to the old site. Yeah, so that's kind of the ins and outs of it. Now, there are some cool tips and tricks and things you can do with DNS. Here, instead of having the ISP supplied primary and secondary DNS, this guy, instead, we could opt to use another DNS server. We could say, hey, I'm going to override what my ISP says, and instead, I want to use Google DNS, which is 8.8.8.8, for example, or Optus's DNS, 61.88.88.88, huzzah. And what we can do is take a look at what that would look like from NSLookup. All right, so jumping straight back into NSLookup, if we open up our command prompt and we go to our favorite tool, NSLookup here, you can see as soon as I connect up, it's actually firing straight into this server here, which the default server is what my firewall at home supplied. In fact, effectively, it's my primary DNS. So I'm just going to quit out of this and show you a quick way to view what your primary and secondary DNS is. So if you do an IP config here, you won't see too much, right? Well, actually, you'll see a lot, but not stuff that interests us right now. Instead, let's do an ipconfig/all, and that will bring forward all the details for the interfaces we have. I have a crap ton of interfaces, so ignoring the majority of these, the one we care about, if I scroll up, is this guy. And over here, you can see, sure enough, that's my DNS server. All right, primary, secondary. So with that out of the way, we're going to go back to NSLookup, and in NSLookup, I can see I'm using my device. If I hit Ronen.IT, yes, beautiful. And you'll see yet again, it's a non-authoritative answer. And the reason it's a non-authoritative answer is because it's cached somewhere along the line. It's probably my firewall. This is not the actual server that hosts the records for it. So it's kind of hearsay. So let's find out how to get the actual real authoritative record. So what I'm going to do is a command called set type equals ns. And what that does is it tells me who the name server is for Ronen.IT. So remember how we asked the root server, then the Italian server, etc., etc. This is just going to tell me straight away, if I go Ronen.IT, this server over here, these two name servers, right, are the guys who are the authority for that record. So let's ask them directly, shall we? So an easy way to do that, and in NS lookup, you can just type in server and then the server you want. I'm going to grab this guy, right click it so it's copied, server that. I'm going to say set type instead of NS. I'm going to go back to just the standard one, which is just A records. And I'm going to say Ronen.IT. And no response from server. So let's try grabbing that guy, server. Live demos are the best. Ronen.IT, perfect. And you'll notice that now when it responds, it doesn't say anything about the non-authoritative answer that it had before. So up here, you can actually see non-authoritative, right? But because I'm asking straight from the horse's mouth, if you will, you can see that there's no non-authoritative business. That is the authority, beautiful. And just to test out that is the same resolution that we would get around the world, if I went server 8.8.8.8, which I said before was Google's DNS, sure enough, if I go Ronen.IT, we get the same answer. Good, right? 103, 27, 34, 33, beautiful. If I then change it to server 61.88.88.88, that's Optus DNS. It'll only reply if you have an Australian IP address, by the way. And again, Ronen.IT, beautiful. Same, non-authoritative as expected, right? So if I quit out of this real quick, and let's just talk about primary and secondary DNS of our machines. So if I go into our network settings over here, if I can spell network right, I like to just go to the control panel. Once you're in control panel, where are you? Go to Network and Sharing Center. Bloody hell. Got it. So in Network and Sharing Center, I have, as you saw, a lot of different interfaces. I'm going to go to Change Adapter Settings. Obviously, this is for Windows. If you're running Mac or an older version of Windows or whatever, you work out, you do you. But here, Change Adapter Settings, the one I care about is this guy who's connected now. If I right click and go Properties, sure enough, if I go to the IP or TCP IP options, click Properties, you'll notice it's all being inherited. So that's what I showed you before. If I did the ipconfig/all, we can actually see what is sucked in rather than just inherit. But I'm going to go change this, and I'm going to say let's use Google DNS as a primary, and let's use Optus DNS. Oops, 88.88.88 as a secondary. Sweet. Click OK. Click Close, and here I'm going to go back and do an ipconfig/all, and sure enough, you can see that it's changed. It's changed my primary and secondary DNS servers. So now if I do an NS lookup, instead of using my local firewall, which you saw before, it will default to my primary DNS. Pretty nifty, pretty useful to know. Now, most important about everything we've talked about here, we've touched on the idea of things caching. To sit on top of that, there's actually a couple of different mechanisms that your machine, whether it's a phone, a Mac, or Windows, might be kind of jumping in line there. One of the things we want is responsiveness. We want our websites to load super quick, right? So instead of us having to go and ask this DNS server, hey, what does Ronen.IT resolve to? I need the IP address, mate. We can actually cache it ourselves, just like the servers upstream could cache it. And that can cause a problem. And that is why I don't actually recommend using tools like Ping. Ping.Ronen.IT seems like a quick and easy way to be like, oh, that's the IP address. And it is quick and easy. But that might not be a true reflection. And I'm a bit worried why some of them aren't replying here, but we'll ignore that for now. That might not be a true reflection of what's actually going on. We have a couple of options here, a couple of things that jump in the way. One is that caching system. Now, if you're concerned that your machine is caching a particular record, you can do an ipconfig/flush DNS. And what that does is actually clears out the DNS resolver cache, meaning if you knew the answer, now you don't know it anymore, go and ask again. But there is another little trick. So what I want to do is open up our favorite text editing tool in Windows, Notepad. Right click this, make sure you run it as administrator. Once it's open, you say yes. Once it's open, and I'll make it a bit more palatable. we can go File. I want you guys to open a file. It's in your C Windows System 32 drivers etc folder, and you'll notice it's blank. The reason it's blank is because it's looking for .txt files. That's not what we care about. I'm going to change this to all. And when I change it to all, you'll notice that there's a hosts file. So let's open up that host file, and this is effectively Microsoft's way, and other OSs have the same kind of thing. It's their way of overriding this whole lookup process. We're going to hard code something in here. So instead of Ronen.IT being this IP address, how about at the bottom here, I'm going to put in an IP address. Let's pick, I don't know, let's go with 99.99.99.99. No idea what that is. Apologies if that's you. Ronen.IT. And then I'm going to save that file, just Control S. Now that that's saved, if I go over here and do a ping Ronen.IT, you'll notice that it thinks that it's 99.99. It didn't actually go and ask anyone. It just used the local system. So the order of operations here is, number one, we've got our hosts file, and it varies OS, but that's the idea. A hard-coded entry. Number two, if our machine has seen it before, it might be caching it. So then something like an ipconfig/flush DNS might clear that up. And then number three, it will ask the primary DNS and then the secondary DNS servers to go and do that lookup, the whole rigmarole with whatever. Talk to your primary DNS server, and then it's his responsibility to go through it all. All right, that's kind of everything I wanted to touch on with DNS for this Foundation video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and please feel free to leave a comment in the comments down below. If there's any suggestions or anything you want to hear more about. My intention is to take this to more of a security level. So I've got some homework for you guys if you're keen. One thing I would like you guys to look up is the idea of what DNSSEC is. Right, so that's security around DNS. So a bit of reading there. Other types of records as well. So far we've talked about the A record, which is just the website pointing to the IP address piece, and also the NS records. What other type of records are there? So have a look there. And one thing we didn't even touch on, which I will talk about in another video, is how DNS protocol-wise actually communicates. So we know that it's on port 53, that's UDP and TCP, but why is it both? And how and what and where and why and whatever. We'll cover that later. Anyway, thanks for hanging around. I hope it was good. Catch you next time. Cheers.